African posture has been met with skepticism from some sectors of society. Lambert Ebitu is one such person, and he joins us from Uganda to speak to us about the year that has been for President William Ruto. He is a writer and pan-Africanist. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Perhaps let's take a look, listen, or show and tell our viewers exactly what we've heard from the Kenyan president throughout the course of the 1 year he's been in office.
If any confirmation was ever needed that the United Nations Security Council is dysfunctional, undemocratic, non-inclusive, unrepresentative, and therefore incapable of delivering meaningful progress in our world as presently constituted, the rampant impunity of its actors on global scene settles that matter.
UN Secretary General said on this podium this morning that there are countries that are paying 8 times in interest what the rest are paying. He was actually referring to those of us in Africa and largely in the global south. We're paying 8 times. And that is why our being in debt is not by default. We were set up by the system to be in debt. If you are paying 8 times, the chances of you being saddled with debt are 8 times higher than the next person.
Lambert Ebitu, how do you characterize the politics of Kenya's President William Ruto, the man he is at home and the man he appears to be on the international stage?
Thank you, Ramela. William Ruto has shown a dual personality, both at home and on the international stage. He seems to be more loved on the international stage more than he is actually loved in Kenya. And for some reason, until of late, he was actually more popular, even outside Kenya, within Africa, than he is in Kenya. Kenya's situation, as we speak right now, is in a dire economic situation. Fuel prices are high, the shilling is, the value of the shilling is so low, the domestic condition of Kenya as a country is in a dire state, in need of healing fast within Kenya. But in the same period of time, William Ruto has been quite popular outside Kenya. And that popularity first began from his apparent Pan-African posture, which he has been taking. He wears counters, which of course is a symbol of Pan-Africanism. What he speaks, what you have just been highlighting on your radio, his Pan-African posture has been so strong that he has spoken so powerfully, and for the benefit of him again, he has spoken so eloquently about, Africa's condition, Africa's state, and how Africa would want to engage with the rest of the world. It has been music to our ears. And for those who have followed my activism for a while, I was among the people who had the biggest hope in Ruto. When he first spoke about de-dollarization, he spoke about Africa beginning to trade locally with its own currency within the continent. It was something that was music to the ears, because the Pan-African idea of Africa is that we want to begin to have one currency. Of course, the ideal is that we are finally united. And Ruto's speaking was always in line with that. And we supported him from the start. We outside Kenya saw him as perhaps the most recent and most ambitious, also most passionate Pan-African.
What changed, Lambert?
So much has changed. He has been, in my own description, he talks right and walks left. He speaks about, you are in Johannesburg. He was in Johannesburg about, I think in May, early this year. You heard what he said. He spoke about the need for Africa to extricate itself from Western influence. And then a month later, when there was a coup in Niger, when the people of Niger got rid of a person they consider a puppet, Ruto was among the first people to call for the reinstatement of that apparent, French puppet. And not only that, so many other things. Ruto says this and does that. And you notice my argument, even in that article which has gone viral, it is not my opinion. Some could think that's my opinion. It is not. What I have done in that article is simply make an observation of facts based on Ruto's character. What has he said? What has he done? He speaks about the Africa-Free Continental Trade Area, and then the next day he's signing agreements with the EU in contravention of the same. He speaks about Africans being extricated from foreign influence, and the next day he is meeting the Secretary of State of the US to arrange for a way to send Kenyan soldiers to go and invade the sovereignty of Haiti. He speaks about, the point is that you see a man who is trying to project himself as the beloved of the West. You see his actions, all of them advance Western interests. The other day, he went to the UN General Assembly, and he said there is famine in East Africa. And I have said that part of Ruto's posture has been to give an impression that he speaks and acts on behalf of Africa. He said there is famine in East Africa. As who? I could have understood if he spoke on behalf of Kenya. Because while Ruto is saying there is famine in East Africa, at the same time, Ruto is blocking milk and excess milk and bananas and other products from Uganda to enter Kenya. Now, which famine is in East Africa?
Sure. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I just want to get your overall assessment, because it would appear that it's not just Kenya's President William Ruto, if we are to follow your argument, because you take a look at the West African nation of Ghana, for instance, where we've seen people taking to the streets because of living conditions. And the leader of Ghana is also one to go on an international stage and make pronouncements and seem very brave and pan-African. Southern Africa is no different. So there are leaders throughout the continent who have adopted this trend. When they take to the international stage, they speak so boldly and on behalf of the African continent. But back at home, the situation for their people is not where it needs to be. And so your overall assessment, is it just a William Ruto matter, or is it a general African leaders matter? And what needs to be done about that?
Well, it is not just a William Ruto matter. You've just named another one of Ghana. The other you haven't mentioned, of course, is Tinubu. Our judgment, not just mine, but of those who hold Africa so passionate, is not based purely on what they say. We want these leaders to walk the talk. We want to see Ruto say this and act in accordance. We are not going to continue to exalt them for being pan-Africanists based on what they say, when in reality they do the reverse. So it is not just a Ruto issue, but Ruto has seemed to champion himself so much. What is putting Ruto so much in a bad taste is that he tries to present himself as speaking and acting for Africa. There's a difference between using Pan-African sentiment, to put forward the interests of your country. It's okay if you say for Kenya this and this, for Ghana this and this, for Nigeria this and this, but Ruto wants to project himself as the spokesman of Africa. And he projects himself to the extent that he does things which are inconsistent with the collective aspiration of the people of Africa.
Lambert, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Lambert Ebitu is a writer, a commentator, and a pan-Africanist. More news.